Well, we'll talk more about that and Arsenal a little bit later on. But just before we stop this chat, Clinton, you always said that you felt like this League Cup final would then impact the rest of the season and how that the title race pans out. What are your thoughts now? Now that we know the answer, we know who's won it.
No, but Pep just said it there. Arsenal are the favourites. And Arsenal are the favourites still for me. Do you know why they're the favourites? Because they had the draw against Forest and West Ham. If Man City had won those both games, I'm telling you now, after watching it yesterday, City would have gone on and won the Premier League because it would have been a mentality thing and a big shift at the moment. I'm not saying it's totally over. But if I had to pick the here and now, Arsenal are going to win the Premier League because you look at the games. It's just so tight with the remaining fixtures that they have.
But they've got the points on the board, haven't they?
And that's what I mean. They've got the points on the board. And you look at the teams that they've got to play. Fulham at home, not maybe an outside chance of Europe. Palace away. By then, Palace could be concentrating if they're in the Europa Conference League final. Burnley, could be West Ham. The toughest game for me on paper is probably West Ham away. And yeah, maybe Newcastle at home. But the West Ham game, who are fighting for their lives. But you never know what effect like yesterday could have on that Arsenal team.
It's more about response now, isn't it?
It is a response. I mean, they'll be hurting, They'll be hurting. You know why they'll be hurting? Because they've had to sit there and watch Man City lift the trophy and celebrate in front of them. So they'll be hurting. But whatever happened to them yesterday was they were nowhere near good enough, though. It was a shadow of the Arsenal I've seen this season. But they'll be hurting and they will recover and they will come again. And I look at that fixture list and I do think, they could go unbeaten from now to the end of the season, but...
Which would include a win over City?
No, sorry. I think City beat Arsenal. Okay. I think there'll be 3 points in it. I think Man City will beat Arsenal. I do think Man City will beat them at the Etihad. But what Man City have got is Chelsea before that. They take one game at a time because Chelsea are not in good form at the moment. But I do believe Man City will beat Arsenal. But I still think Arsenal will go on and win the Premier League. Because after that, I think the toughest game then, in my eyes, is West Ham. We're fighting for their life. If West Ham take points off them, it's open. But you just don't know how damaging that defeat was for Arsenal. But I think they've got a good manager, a good group of players that will rebuild and go again. But the performance I saw from Arsenal in the second half is not what I've seen. They missed Eze big time. They missed that creative spark. Obviously, he picked up an injury, and he turns up at Wembley. I've seen that firsthand last season when he was at Palace. That is it. That is his ground, and they did miss him. They missed that creative spark. That's why I was surprised he didn't throw on young Max Dowman. Because if a man in that situation, the youngsters got no fear, just throw him onto the pitch because it was flat in the ground, and they needed a lift, Arsenal. They didn't get a lift, but they'll come again. It's not all doom and gloom for Arsenal.
Still in three competitions.
Yeah, and I think they'll win 2 of them at least.
Right, we will talk about, a very good Sunday for Manchester City. For once you weren't working, you were living it up in the box at Wembley. How was that?
Yeah, it was brilliant.
Was it?
Credit to the